Okay, here we go. I think it's going now. Hopefully, record for the people that's here, and plus, I'm got this thing here. First thing I want to just talk about is a quiz like that for tomorrow, and see what is going to be on there, so you won't be going into areas that maybe it's going to be concentrated on Tuesday. Things that we're going to concentrate on tomorrow, probably the first one or two questions here is still continuing out west. You won't be a lot of questions. And people say, well, does that mean the Native Americans? That's the only thing I think of out west. It could go along with the, land rush, could go along with all the Comstock load. There's various things here from Joseph Clinton's development of barbed wire, cattle ranching, Hatch Act. I will not ask specifically, but how acts are related to it about the expansion out west. So it will not take up 90% of your quiz. 90% of your quiz, what it will be, is what we kind of touch on today. Really, what is the Gilded Age? Characteristics of the Gilded Age, corporations, robber barons versus captains of industry, entrepreneurs, laissez-faire capitalism, markets, combinations of corporations from horizontal versus vertical, trust, pools, holding companies. That's what's going to be on for the most part of your quiz tomorrow. And because it's everybody's favorite thing is the videos that people always be asking, and they're like, oh, Mr. Price, how many do I have to watch? Can I watch the first 2 minutes? And then I can it's fine, right? You really need the first part. I think the first part is kind of short. You can go to the second part, but there might be one or two questions on those two as well. So I would just be prepared for that for sure. And I usually write one or two. Who knows? You should definitely examine part one without a doubt. Right? And yes, for the most part, just kind of getting a key in on that. What will not be on, I will not concentrate on, is the politics of the Republican administrations, even to Grant, to Rutherford B. Hayes, to all the Republican presidents on there, Garfield. You don't have to worry about that. Or immigration. Even though I may mention these today, the next 25 minutes, I'm not going to, that's going to be more on Tuesday's quiz, along with the rest of the videos. See, you guys say, oh, it's good. We only have part one. Well, you have about, 6 more parts for Tuesday, then, if that's the case. So you don't, divide it up. So pick your poison. So that's going to be more on Tuesday about Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall that you've been asking about, and we can see some examples of that on Tuesday. It has to be kind of broken up during this time. Okay, that should give you a little relief. Some people have been asking about, more hints about Americana. Can't really give you more hints than what I've been giving you as maybe the week goes. Maybe by Tuesday, maybe just just making sure that I got the quiz written out. I may say a couple of things in here, to look at. But right now, you should be working on your card, the hints I've already given you. So it's pretty comprehensive. Should be reinforcing your work anyway. Okay, for that. All right, that's great. All right, now here's what, and people have been asking about this. They're like, what's the time period? Well, you should have some time period right now about this. What is the time period of the Gilded Age? Give me the exact time period, because there's exact years for the Gilded Age, right? No, thank you. So tell me, what is your Gilded Age time period yourself, and tell me reason why you would start it here and end it there. Anybody, any volunteers for the Gilded Age? First, once again, why is it named or coined this time the Gilded Age? This is also can be called the Second Industrial Revolution or the making of modern America? Go ahead, hit me. Why the name Gilded? Where's that come from? Anything? Like what? Like it's covered in gold, but what's underneath? Well, yeah, inferior product, something like something that's like again, that's not solid gold, but it looks. It's like when people always say, "Oh, Mr. Price is going to be the best concert. Mr. Price this is going to be the best thing ever. Oh, this is this is best. If I only get this, if I only get in this college." And the old saying, "Everything that glitters is not gold." And it's the same way with the Gilded Age. Everything that appears to be so great and expansive, and you will be seeing people making money and people prospering. But it is not everybody's doing that. They see some income inequality. We'll talk more about that when we get into labor unions, in which, matter of fact, I'm glad I brought that up. That probably will not, definitely will not be on tomorrow in a way because you got to get specifically about it. Tuesday is probably going to be a combination of politics and maybe labor unions in response to the industrialization because you got to get to that. And that's what they're worried about. They see a lot of these people as robber barons. They don't see them as captains of industry. Okay. Now, I'm going to be talking about some general stuff at first, like that. So you got to like keep that in mind, but it's very important even for the quiz tomorrow. Somebody want to back up and say about what the time period again, though, as I asked before, what would you say and what you might think it is? What is this time period? When does it, you think it begins, and when do you kind of somewhat it kind of ends and kind of evolve into something else? Go ahead, Malik. Hmm? That's very good. A lot of historians paid it like that. This is supposed to like post Civil War, so very good. All right, until 1900. All right, till the 20th century. Really, 20th century is 1901, but for all intensive purposes. So really, it's like modern America had been created. Now, what do we do? Time to address the excesses, and that's the progressive movement. And what that's going to be our next unit in about 2 weeks. All right. How do we help the labor unions like that at this time? How do we help people and the consumers that like buying these products? How do we regulate these kind of monopolies, pools, and trusts? Because what you have to answer right now, and you need to get in your head, the government is going to be on whose side? The business side or the worker side? At this time, they are. All right. Why? Because it's the golden rule. Whoever has the most gold rules. And for them, if you have Rockefeller by 1880 owning 95% of the oil refinery business, well, you're going to listen to him than Mr. Price, who works for him out on the refinery business. I'm scum. He's the best. All right. Carnegie is the first person who will have $1 billion business. All right. You're going to listen to him. You're not going to listen to one of his workers who melted in his plant in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Steelers, hence Pittsburgh. Carnegie. All right. That's why. And that's why you get Carnegie Mellon up there. So you're not going to be listening to those people. That's where the business go up there. When the police come out, as the, Henry Frick, and they didn't call him Frick. I'll tell you that. It rhymes with it. So on the homestead strike, they're not after like the owners. They're actually shooting at the workers. Okay, at the people on. This is the atmosphere for most workers at this time, and there's going to be about like I would say 35,000 strikes at this time. So don't worry. I know I'm talking about strikes with labor union. I'm trying to get you into the mood what this time period is all about. So that's why I'm a little bit talking more in generalities that you have to understand. All right, go ahead. Yeah, yeah, for coal. It's not. That's what it is. Like that's coal and like again when it's you take it out of the ground. Okay, like that. So you heat it up. So it's not like what you think it is. So no. So anyway, so was there another question? The atmosphere of the workers is that here's one of the characteristics of the ingredients in here is, and you need to write this down, is economies of scale. And I'll go through the other ingredients too. Economies of scale is going to be a word that you'll learn next year in economics and civics, and maybe the first year that you're officially in college, is how you can maximize your profits, lower your cost, and increase production. And that's finally we get to a time period of this. Here's the thing is I want to tell you about this time period. 1865, statistically, we didn't produce any steel. Statistically. Right? So by 1885, we're producing about 400,000 tons. All right. That's remarkable. And by 1900, we're going to be the leader in producing steel in the world. That is crazy. And we take it for granted because we live in 2019. We live in a land of wealth. We live in the largest, strongest, biggest economy in the world. I know it's always good to fear China, fear all the other markets and all that and everything. Don't. That's always good to make you like, oh, well, we got to keep pace with everybody else in the world because, you don't want America falling behind. I'm telling you, it's just a remarkable country that I'm not trying to be braggadocious, just trying to be more realistic about what's happening. And it begins here. That's one of the ingredients. I'm talking about other ingredients. You need natural resources. So you go ahead and tell me our bountiful natural resources that we have around here, just shout them out. Lumber for sure, and that's the one that American that we tend to forget, and I tend to forget too. The amount of timber, and one of the few things we're still exporting a lot here, even today, is our timber, for sure. What else? Coal. We have one of the leaders producers of coal, for sure. So, and then other like again, just the fresh water resources that we have here, the copper, the iron, things of that you will see in like the grounds of the earth across the United States is vast geography here. And that also is too is another ingredient is our vast geography or expansive landmass, however you want to say. That is an ingredient for for a modern industrial economy. And the last thing that you do need, and you're going to explain to me why in a way, is a population, a significant population. For what? Workers, labor. Our population will be growing by 3% almost every 5 years. A lot of that is coming from immigration too. Corporations, big businesses love the immigrants. Democrats in the cities love the immigrants. Right. People around the South, people who people fear like immigrants who are like the Democratic Party and other nativists do not like the immigrants as they're coming over here because they are going to be called the new immigrants. I know I'm looking ahead again here because they're coming from other parts besides France, Great Britain, and Northern Italy. So now again, the ironies of the Gilded Age, the Northern Italians are better than the Southern Italians because one is lighter than the other. All right. So I know you're 2019 thinking here, oh, they're Sicilian. I said again, I'm from Florence. Ooh, and you get that at this point too as well. Business Democrats, they do too. The big city of Boston, northern cities love the immigrants too because they're counted as votes. Factories, of course, love the immigrants feeding us labor. because usually with this all this immigration, it's cheap labor and you're maximizing profits. How are we changing? Tell me what kind of government do you need for an agrarian, Jeffersonian, idealistic society? What kind of government do you need as far as power? Small, weak. You really can keep order domestically. You can protect people when you have a big farming kind of like expansive society here. Yeah. Yes, it had to. Mr. Rockefeller, do you mind, like, this is a capitalism, right? It says, and Rockefeller's reply, we need to kind of create equality. And his reply was, well, if you know anything about capitalism, you need inequality. Capitalism breeds inequality, and you need it. Democracy, it supposedly breeds equality. Capitalism, inequality. And again, he's not making any kind of like apologies. Now, what you got to see tomorrow, maybe one or two questions about, well, that's when you see him as someone who's cold and who's a robber baron. He's going to say, hey, my friend Andrew Carnegie says that, he wrote the, Gospel of Wealth. All right. And he says, a person who dies rich dies in disgrace. That's why between 1901 and 1920, he's donating about $500 million. Rockefeller takes his lead. He has the University of Chicago. His wife is an abolitionist. You might have heard of the uh, Black College for Females, Spelman University, like it's again in Georgia. Rockefeller, like it's again there. That was created by the Rockefeller Foundation. But the problem is where they're getting this money from. Well, because they're working people and they're taking advantage of them. That's how you see them as being a robber baron. They're not maximizing their wages and their living. Income inequality is growing. But by the way, though, it's not as bad as it is today. I know nobody wants to accept that. But go ahead and let's statistic. But it is growing. But this is where it gets the big start and the big disparity here. Um, they're getting their money from cheap labor. They're getting their money from unfair business practices. And what you can say is this, because I know it's confusing. Mr. Bryce, what's the difference between, a trust, a monopoly, a pool, a holding company? All various forms of eliminating your competition. I'll just go like a little bit briefly. A lot of these times, Rockefeller and them could not own stock in other, like, companies out of state. That's the way it was back then. So they would say Jilly is going to be the trustee, and they're going to create, like, again, make her, like, part of this company where they want to trust her to command other companies. But it's still another scheme. All right. It's very similar to a holding company that completes, that combines a lot of other companies. All right. Other names. Pool is the same way. You don't really have to differentiate between them, but you can mention them anytime that you need. As I pull their short pools trust to get around from the main thing, eliminate the competition, consolidate your wealth. All right, in here at this time, because this is, we don't see, we have a lot of winners today, but there's not like a lot of, we don't know who's going to rise to the top in the 19th century. And here we go. Jilly, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter in a way too, like that, because you can float around because you're the trustee. All right, for that. But it's all people like Carnegie, Rockefeller, Morgan, James B. Duke, all these people, Gustavus Swift and the meat company. So don't just get, Cornelius Vanderbilt and those people. By the way, sometimes you guys will be reading about Vanderbilt late 19th century. It's really his son, Cornelius Vanderbilt Jr., but don't worry about that as much because, he passes away earlier on more than we get into the late Gilded Age. Don't worry about that. So I'm not going to ask you a question. Huh? Yes, Vanderbilt is definitely real. They started out, and again, what you see about another reason why you call them captains of industry because they're innovative. You know, they're actually looking to make life easier for people because you think about this. Rockefeller reduces the price of petroleum. All right. So you really get like, a reduction. You get a good price for it. And like, it used to be like, 35 cents a gallon by the end of the 20th century, something like 8 cents. And again, people say, thank you, Mr. Rockefeller, for making our life easy. And how about the trains? You have to roll those barrels, like, in there. And of course, and they might be unsteady, all that, like, all those products. He created this nice little canister that you see in the video that he presents, and people are like, oh, that he knew about marketing. So people really appreciate Mr. Rockefeller for doing this. Now, Robert Barron, before I get to your question, the reason thing is he specs a rebate from the railroad. So the railroad company say, hey, we got to have the same rate for Cassie and Mr. Rockefeller, even though Cassie is just like, a small business owner, but we had the same rate. And Mr. Rockefeller says, but what about my rebate? Oh, yes, we can give you a rebate, Mr. Rockefeller, especially if you put your product on my train. Don't build a pipeline like you did to Tom Scott and undercut him and put him out of business. He skipped the train by creating a pipeline from Ohio to Pennsylvania. So he strong arms people, like again, to do what they want to do. So they're getting a rebate. So what is right? So Cassie is paying, let's just say, 10 cents a mile for her, shipping her product. Rockefeller, after his rebate, is paying 0 cents. Sometimes he actually makes money. Wait, what does rebate mean? You get a rebate. It's like, oh yeah, for that trip, they're like, shipping your oil, like, your product, refinery products to like, Pittsburgh or like Harrisburg, like that, it would be $100, but you get back $100. Oh, and it's that he needs this because he's better business for the railroad. Right, exactly. So it's going for the railroad. And then you say, well, how do the railroads like, make money? Well, Rockefeller gives them their cut, but it's not an official cut. So don't worry about that. They'll get some kind of things, and sometimes he doesn't get the full rebate. Maybe they get $80 back, they get $90, but they know they're gonna get Rockefeller business. And somebody who owns 95% of the business, I think you kind of have to do business with Mr. Rockefeller. So so initially his is horizontal kind of like, integration. He's getting all the other refinery companies. He's buying them up. All right, for that. That's horizontal initially. But Rockefeller will definitely do vertical, diagonal, crisscross, every place to get like consolidate his business. Carnegie is more the vertical example, all the products to like for his steel company from the coal like that's in there that needs from the trains that he needs to ship those things in there. So that's how I see it. It's like you're kind of encompassing everything here for that. And I always give the example of McDonald's today, like had like a farm that likes again to produce their dairy products and beef and even the trucks. And that would be kind of, and it's all McDonald's. That would be more vertical integration in there. All right. So that's what that was going on there. Go ahead. Did you? Well, go ahead. Yeah, my question was, so does vertical mean like, let's just say you put all your eggs in one basket, whereas horizontal is like you're putting your eggs in multiple like your business is growing in multiple like sections or encompasses multiple sections, whereas vertical is just like vertical is more meaning the factors of production you're owning. You understand that? You do everything. Yeah, you own the factors of production. If you're like horizontal, you're Taco Bell. If you've seen Demolition Man, which is an old movie but a good movie with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone, the Taco Bell won the fast food wars, and that means that they kind of the only fast food game in town. All right, so that's what would be more of horizontal, right, in there. Understand that? And it's confusing. Right? Does everybody understand? I always think of horizontal. How I can remember it's like same because just horizontal. Vertical, I think, is just encompassing other things. That's how I remember. Right, exactly. Right, but you're buying competitors of similar products. And I want to make this very clear before I get to your question. Very clear. If you really want to be accurate anytime you're getting that question, I know it's easy for us to say oil, like from Edward Drake that he was in the oil business. No, no, Rockefeller is in the oil refinery business. All right, he says anybody can dig up oil. That's what he says. Right, it's standard. Great marketing name because some of this stuff is volatile. I know today everything is safe, it's cased, it's inspected. You don't hear people explosions. But there are explosions. There's people like um, people getting burned up, like I said, again from handling this stuff. So it was very standard, and you knew what you were getting for his product. And so the thing is that he mostly is known for his kerosene. His byproduct that he used to throw in the rivers was gasoline. And again, he's going to hit gold again at the turn of the 20th century with the development of the internal combustion engine in 1892. I think Duryea, let's see in there. I think I'm around that. I think I hit it around that year for like that. So, and so that way he's going to increase more of his business in there. So, um, again, this is probably not true, but it kind of tells you about Rockefeller when J.P. Morgan dies in 1914. You don't have to write this down. And they said that his wealth was $14 million. Rockefeller is supposed to know to read the newspaper. His obituary says, "Man, that's really bad. He died a poor man." Right for that time. So, and again, this is extreme wealth that I know you see Bezos, you see Gates and things of that nature, but this is really say, well, how much did Mr. Rockefeller pay in taxes? Zero. All right, so you don't really have to. Now, did he pay politicians? Yes, he did, and he hated politicians because they were always coming for him for money, like that. Always. This is open bribery, open corruption at this time. This is Where's my? It's just you're expected to get that on Capitol Hill. You're in Washington D.C. You're talking to the senator or congressman, like saying, and Rockefeller would say this, like, I paid you already. So that should like go through like that anyway. So I already paid you. I'm open to everything. So you should have your money. So that's not. It is Nigeria. I always say this in the Gilded Age here. This is the era. Look at this, and you could write this down of good stealings. So, and it really is a really aptly named at this time. The police cannot make any money because there's not enough revenue for governments. So you know what they do? They're the gang. Well, I say I gotta pay out the police gang. Seriously, that's what people say that like that. Like, hey, help me. You need to come in and help me. Like Godfather, help me. They would say things like this. Like, why? Because the police. Like you gotta help me from the police. That was your security back in the day. I know something. Go ahead, Malik. I'm sorry. I'll get to everybody's last question. Make in total, they say he's behind Mansi Musa as far as the richest person in history. So you're talking about equivalent of almost $1 trillion to $2 or $3 trillion. Equivalent, like if you do it for the rate. Yeah, he's behind Mansi Musa. You can look that up. And Mansi Musa was giving out gold, so much gold that gold prices went down. Muslim, like Muslim from Mali, that like again that like sorry, mispronounced your. I know you're such a into your religion. He's a Muslim from Mali that like again was the leader in there. So and that you know about Mansi Musa, but he was one of the richest people in the world. Went on this fabulous Hajj that like really that to Mecca that like really exposed his wealth. Go ahead. Shh, listen up. I'm gonna give my last minute here too. Here, go ahead. Shh. Shh. Yes. The railroads, of course, like that and everything. So in there, because here's the thing is about why they're captains of industry. Again, what do all good presidents, what do all good business people see? The future. And they already like investing in that. They can see it. Mr. Price does not have that power like that. I think, ooh, people are gonna need a one slice toaster in the future like that. So it's something silly as that. And I'm not innovative like they are, and they're already pouring all his money practically into the railroads, which is going to maximize his wealth. And this is why you go to his grandson's house over there in Asheville. Yes. Huh? Oh, Jay Gould, yes, for sure. And by the way, the thing he's into the banking. Now, Jay Gould, they never spelled his name correctly in the newspapers. They spelled it with an H instead of they put an H in there, so saying Gould, they spelled it Ghoul. That. Yeah, it's like I know they say like Gould like that. So I think a little bit though he's a little bit mischaracterized because of he's Jewish, and I think sometimes they kind of unfairly attacked him at times because of his. He's into the banking, finance, railroads.